some folks start out thinking this is exactly what I want to do.
Mhm.
And then, maybe life hits you with something that you weren't expecting. And that career and that upward mobility and that passion gets put on hold for a little bit. And what started as a career turns into a job, 6 months, a year, what have you. And I don't want to say stagnate, but you just stay level for a little bit.
Mhm.
And then you find your passion and you find how to move forward and you find what you think you want to be doing, and you start to enjoy what you are doing more and see that as a part of yourself. Your career for me is a piece of you. It's your legacy in this place that you have been 8 hours a day, every single day for your entire life. You spend more time at your job than you do with your family sometimes. So you want to make sure that it's something that you definitely have a passion for and something that you really want to make a part of you.
Welcome to the Work Awesome Podcast. This is episode 15, Landing a Job versus Finding a Career. Today I have Sarah and Laura with me to talk about this topic, and just to quickly go over the description like I always do. A job can be mundane, but a career that fits your passion, shows a clear path to success, and is long-lasting can be exciting. This episode will take a look at the differences between a job and a career and the importance of finding a career path that gives you satisfaction. Before I get any further into the episode, I do want to say if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. It sends a notification when new episodes are posted on the platform. And then if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or any other audio platform, follow so that, again, you get notifications for when new episodes go live every Tuesday morning. So as always, first of all, good morning, because this is a morning episode. So good morning to Sarah and Laura. Let's start with the icebreaker. This one, because of the topic, let's just talk about our first job. So for me, I count my first real job as like working at a restaurant. Before that, I'd helped my dad. He had a lawn care business with one of his friends and helped him like cut grass, but I don't count that. I count the restaurant as my first job. I started at basically the takeout counter, and this was at the beaches in Delaware, so it was right on the boardwalk. I got to just watch the waves crash every day. It was very nice. I worked at the takeout counter where people would come off the beach, order their food, and it was a pizza shop, so it was always smelled like pizza and fried food and deliciousness. And then from there, I moved over to actually making pizza, and I actually still do that today. So it was very impressionable, I guess would be the word I'm looking for there. It made a lasting impression on my life because it turned out to be something that I really enjoyed doing.
Awesome. So my first job was lifeguarding. I had been on a swim team as a kid, and it just seemed like a really natural progression to go from swimming competitively into swimming and watching others swim and being paid to do that. So if you had asked me then, that would have been my career path because I had a passion for it. And I thought, this is the best job ever. I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this. So yeah, definitely a great first job there.
Yeah, a lot of my friends were lifeguards because, again, I grew up at the beach. A lot of my friends were either pool lifeguards or actual like beach lifeguards, which is really intense if you ever see them like try out and then have to exercise every day. And it seemed like a lot of work that I didn't want to do in high school.
Other than babysitting and pet sitting, which I did a good deal of when I was younger and was a little bit too young to get a job, my first job was at a yogurt. It was like a little yogurt and snack cart in a travel plaza on the Turnpike in Pennsylvania. So you learn a lot at those types of jobs. I think you learn what you're good at and what you're not good at and how to deal with people, which is a good thing.
Yes.
And it helped me pay for college. So I'm grateful for that first job.
So you worked at one of those, like, I go to Pittsburgh quite often, I guess, to visit my grandparents and family that live there. So the turnpike you're talking about is like where you stop if you need gas or a bathroom or food. Um,
Yeah,
and now it's like most of them have a Starbucks and an
right.
Auntie Anne's and
Yeah.
something else. But
Yeah. So, Ian, I'm old enough that that travel plaza has been completely changed.
yes, yeah,
So it was a
I'm old
little
enough
tiny
too.
thing. Yeah, it was a little tiny thing. But like I said, I'm really, I think those first jobs are so important to kind of learn, like I said, what you're good at, what you're not good at. Working with people, both your coworkers and the customers. Um, so I think you really pick up a lot at those first jobs. And I don't think there's anything, I mean, I know we're talking about the difference between a job and a career. And I don't think there's anything wrong with having a job. And I think that if you embrace those experiences, they can really help lead to a career too.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we talk too much more about that, because that is a topic that we'll talk
Oh,
about, let's start with what your definition of a job is. And I have one written down from Indeed, but I first want to hear what your definition of a job is.
So for me, I consider a job to be something that you do. You just go for the paycheck.
mhm.
Your sole goal in life is I'm going to go check into this place and then check out with money. But not necessarily check into this place and gain personal fulfillment or want to move on. And there's nothing wrong with that. There are times in your life when a job is what you need and a job is what is appropriate for where you are in your life. And sometimes that even changes within the same job. Maybe you started out there as, well, look, I just want to get in. I just want to make more money. I just need to get some stuff done. And then you get there and then you find out you really have a passion for what you're doing, or you see that you can move up, or you see how you can make things better. And that job can turn into more of a career path. But I won't go too deeply into that yet because
Laura, I think you absolutely hit it on the spot with that. You're checking in, you're checking out. When you're at work, you're working hard, but you kind of leave the job there. You're not necessarily thinking of strategy. You're putting in your 8 or 9 or 10 or 12 hours, whatever your shift is, and then you're done.
Yeah, you guys are hitting it right on the head there. Indeed's definition of a job is work you perform to earn money to support your basic needs. It can be a full-time or part-time. It may be short-term. You might earn an hourly wage or a set paycheck rather than a salary with benefits. You might need to learn certain skills connected with that role, but not all jobs require specialized degrees or advanced training. So yeah, like you're saying, it's kind of like you might not see yourself in this job in a year, but for now it works. Like it's when, I guess my thought is like seasonal employees. So like around here, there's a lot of hiring for seasonal employees at like retail stores like Target and Lowe's and the places that get super busy during the holiday season. People just work there because it's an opportunity to make money during the holiday season, and B, they might need that money. So a job is just something that supports, like the definition says, those basic needs that you might have at the time. So now let's define career. What's your definition of a career?
I think my definition of career kind of builds on that definition of a job. So now you're thinking, this is what I want to do with my life, or this is one of the stages of my life right now, career-wise. And you're thinking, beyond just those 8 hours that you're putting in or whatever your shift is. You're thinking, I love doing this. So for example, if you go back to my first job, working at that travel plaza, there were people who turned that into a career because they loved it and they really excelled in it. They loved working with customers. The managers that I had, they made a great career out of that job because they had a passion for managing and managing people, managing logistics, managing all of those pieces. And so they took that job and made it into a career. And I don't know if when they started, they thought that that's what was going to happen, but that's what they did. That just wasn't my passion at that time, for a long-term goal. So I think it's kind of a little bit more strategy. You're going into that position and you're thinking, this is really what I love to do. I'm going to put my heart into it. And it's more than just being there for that 8 hours.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, career-wise, I think some folks start out thinking this is exactly what I want to do, and then maybe life hits you with something that you weren't expecting, and that career and that upward mobility and that passion gets put on hold for a little bit, and what started as a career turns into a job. 6 months, a year, what have you, and I don't want to say stagnate, but you just stay level for a little bit. And then you find your passion and you find how to move forward and you find what you think you want to be doing, and you start to enjoy what you are doing more and see that as a part of yourself. Your career for me is a piece of you. It's your legacy in this place that you have been 8 hours a day, every single day for your entire life. You spend more time at your job than you do with your family sometimes. So you want to make sure that it's something that you definitely have a passion for and something that you really want to make a part of you and make, I go back to legacy again. What are you leaving behind? Who's going to remember what you did and what's important to you? Did you check those boxes to make yourself feel fulfilled in what you're doing every single day?
Yeah. And again, you guys are hitting it right on the head. Indeed's definition of a career is a long-term professional journey you may determine based on your passions. It is the path you embark upon to fulfill your professional goals and ambitions. You may require a certain level of education or training to achieve these goals. Individuals pursuing careers often have set salaries with benefits such as stock options, retirement plans, pensions, bonuses for us, employee ownership. They also gain benefits beyond money, such as personal pride, work satisfaction, self-worth. A career might last for your entire life. You could hold numerous jobs under many employers in your chosen industry that you progress through during your career. So I think for me, the difference between a job and a career is that a job might not always have clear progression or path to progression, whereas a career, you could really set up a clear goal and then a clear path on how you could achieve those goals and progress in your career.
Absolutely.
Definitely, Ian.
So how might a job affect your career? So for me, I started out in a restaurant. I think one of you mentioned that it helps build skills. We talked about soft skills in a few episodes ago. I learned a lot of communication skills, I guess, during that time, and not like my title is communications, but not that type of communications, like talking communications to people. I am a very introverted person, so talking to people wasn't natural for me, but being forced to do that by working at a takeout counter and taking orders and fulfilling orders really taught me just how to communicate clearly, and there are a lot of other things that job taught me. But what I learned in that job directly applies to things that I'm doing now during my career. So that's one example. You could make a career out of a job. So say you, like Sarah was saying, say you start at a travel plaza and then become a manager of that then can turn into your career. What else do you guys think? How can a job affect your career?
Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
Well, I was going to say, I think, what you're talking about, the skills that you develop at each job you take with you to your next job. So you're really building and that job, so like you said, I'm sure that you developed communication skills. You probably learned how to work a little bit under stress, which you're very good at, Ian. You don't seem to get phased very easily. So I think maybe those first experiences you had really prepared you that way. And I think that, there are certain, and Laura can really speak to this as a contract manager, there are certain skills that you have to have and experiences that you have to qualify for positions that are a little bit higher on the chart of requirements and pay and all of that. So those initial positions that you hold can help you prepare for those jobs, even if it's not maybe necessarily something that's directly related. I mean, let's put it out there. Sometimes the exact position that you're looking for is not available in your area. And I think that now with a little bit more teleworking options and that kind of thing, that might get a little bit easier, but a lot of times finding a job is timing. So if you can step into a role that's going to help you prepare for the ideal job, then that's a great win for you.
And I think very few of us out there are doing what we thought we were going to be doing when we grew up. Mm-hmm. We get a job to start with, and while we are at that job, it sort of morphs into other things. Like the pizza place, it made me think, Ian, you go there and folks come and say, wow, I didn't even know you were here. Maybe they didn't have great marketing. So that shows you that there is a need, there's a void, something that you could fill. Maybe you start to morph towards that, or you learn to do word of mouth and you understand how important all of those skills are. And then that leads to, getting a degree in communications, moving on to marketing, understanding how what seemed like a really small piece to, a teenager flipping pizzas has grown into, wow, this is how I reach people and how I can affect them and help hone what they're doing to come to my business and to affect them emotionally and how to reach out to everyone and get them in. So I see that as like a job progression to a career. I know back to what I was saying about, none of us being where we thought we were going to be when we grew up. You go into a job, you go into a position, and you kind of feel it out and you look around and think, oh, I didn't know that was there. I might like to lean towards this, or I might like to hone my skills towards this, or maybe I could get some training in this thing that I never knew about, and now I'm interested in that thing. And then you become, a leading expert in thing X. Engineers, perfect example. You go to college, I want to be an engineer. Well, what do you want to engineer? You can engineer anything. So as you get your jobs, you find your passion. Ooh, I really love, propulsion, jet engines. I like to blow things up. I like to, fine tune something. And each job that you hold in your career leads you to finding more of what your passion is and where you want to develop each of those skills along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny that you say like you might not know what you want to be or when you grow up or that type of thing. For me, at least, there were like these little signs, and I didn't choose my major in college until like my junior year. I just couldn't decide what I wanted to be. But then thinking back to it, it's like, well, I remember growing up and I was always good at computers, like in 6th grade when computer labs in schools were still a relatively new thing. Personal computers were still relatively new. My teachers were asking me how to work a computer. Like, I'm in 6th grade. What are you, like 10 or 11 years old then? So I've always had really great computer skills. I remember like making printout magazines for my parents growing up, and like that's was a start of like basically looking into graphics. And then in high school I started learning Photoshop and all of the tools that I'm using now. So there were those little hints, and I probably should have realized that sooner than junior year of college. But yeah, I mean, I think, like both of you saying, everything you learn in those first jobs that you hold can be directly applied to your career.
Well, and Ian, I think it's great. I actually don't think it's necessarily a mistake to wait until your junior year to really figure out what you want major in college, because that college experience, I mean, I think college has changed a great deal in the past few decades to be more of a specialized educational experience. Whereas, there really was, maybe it seemed like a pretty good focus on liberal arts, decades and decades ago.
Yeah.
I feel like those first 2 years of college experience that you had really set you up to really cement what you knew and what you had, a passion for. Initially, when you went into school, you probably didn't have those experiences to really know what you wanted to do. I remember I love reading about archaeological digs and all of that kind of thing. And I thought, that might be something that I would be interested in. That's not what I majored in school, but I took some classes on the side, and I could not stay awake in those classes. I just couldn't.
I was about to say the same thing.
Yeah, I determined that, I love to read about what other people have done, and it might be fun to go on a dig, but I don't think that was really my passion.
Yeah.
So, and I'm grateful that there are other people that is their passion, because I do love to hear about that and learn about, that part of history. But I'm glad that other people are willing to do that. So I don't think it's a bad thing for it to take a little bit of time. I think it's better to take a little bit of time to figure out what you want to do with your career, and maybe have some jobs to set you up for success in that career later, than it is to make up your mind early on and end up maybe following a path that isn't really your passion.
Yeah.
Because then that turns a career into a job.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's
yes.
a great quote there, flipping it backwards.
Yeah. And I think that, sometimes I think, Laura, you alluded to this earlier in the conversation, sometimes that does happen. And sometimes, as you mentioned, there are stages in your life where maybe that needs to be turned back into a job, as long as you're performing your job, successfully. But you don't want to get stuck there if that's not what you really want.
I don't want to dwell on college too much, but I did go to a liberal arts school. So those, like you said, those first 2 years, I had plenty of classes that I could fill my schedule with. I initially thought I wanted to be a history major, which a lot of people are like, what are you going to do with a history degree? I was like, I don't know. I'll figure it out later. And then it had to be my junior year of college. At the beginning of the year, I made the decision to kind of skip a semester. I went back to making pizza, which is at the time where I realized that I didn't want to be making pizza my entire life, as far as like my main source of income. Because like I said, I do still make pizza right now. If you haven't been to Slice House, I highly recommend it. But I realized I didn't want to make making pizza my career. So I went back to school, decided on communications at that point, and now we're here. But
we're so glad you did.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do want to, so Sarah, I know you actually have worked in communications before, and then have now switched to HR related, recruiting related stuff. Do you want to talk maybe about, was there a decision that, like, I don't want you to bad talk communications because
no, I love communications. I still love that. And I kind of have the perfect scenario, because we have such a great communications team. Maybe close your ears, Anne, for a little bit. But we have such a passionate communications team, and I feel like I get to kind of do both in some degrees, because I get to work so closely with the communications department here. One of my first jobs, early on, was a communications job, and I absolutely loved it. And, if that opportunity presented itself, I would probably consider it again. But I'm really happy doing what I'm doing now too. And I feel like I do get kind of a blend of both. And that's a way I feel like you can build on things. So even though my title isn't communications, I feel like I do get to use the skills that I learned in my undergrad, and, the skills that I learned when I was getting my MBA as well, with a concentration in HR.
Yeah, absolutely. Because what you do now is like full on, you're communicating with people every day, every day. So I definitely see how the two kind of mingle with each other. And then Laura, I believe you started on like working on contract and then eventually found your way as a contracts manager. Is that correct? You can correct me if
I
I'm wrong.
did. I
Okay.
did. I worked direct government for a weapons system for about 15 years. And even in that position, I morphed from finance to more engineering support to more T&E support, to doing test flights and things like that. That's kind of where I alluded to before, like I love blowing things up. So I really enjoyed that.
I really like 4th of July.
Yeah. Really enjoyed that part of my position, but I feel like each of those pieces in my career path gave me a little bit more knowledge and a little bit more understanding of how things worked, and then also moving forward into a contracts position. I had worked with contractors, for years and years. I was a contractor myself. So I kind of understood what the government was looking for on that side. So moving into it on the more of a corporate side, I felt like I could talk the talk. I knew the jargon. I understood what we were looking for here, what we were looking for there. So I feel like each of those pieces all helped me grow into where I am in my career now and make me a more holistic, well-rounded contracts manager in this particular point in my career. So definitely all of those experiences help build on everything, even if they don't necessarily directly relate in the moment. So it's important to take all of those and, stick them in your pocket and hold on to them for later, because that's a special Mouska tool that we'll use later.
Yeah, absolutely. So like you're saying, there's things that, for example, this podcast, I have all kinds of stuff set up that you don't learn in college, and I don't expect other people that have taken communications courses to know this stuff. But it's just stuff I've learned along the way because I enjoy the technical side of setting up a camera and getting a podcast to stream, even though we're all in different locations and all of that stuff. So there's definitely things that maybe it's not even a job. Maybe it's just something that you enjoy on the side that then turns out applying to your career or wherever you're working at the time. And the last question I have, and again, we've been talking about this a little bit already, how would you turn a job into a career? So for me, we talked about like marketing and communications. If I did end up staying at this pizza place for my entire career and still had a communications degree, I would probably give them recommendations on like how they could better their social media campaigns or how they could communicate better with their employees, and hopefully that would lead to like them being, hey, you seem like you're doing good stuff with communications related things. Here's a new title. You don't have to make pizza anymore. You can now work on the corporate side and help us communicate things to our employees. That's just an example. Any other thoughts on like how to turn a job into a career?
So for me, like along the lines what you said there, any job that you start, once you're in there for a little bit, you start to notice, who's above you or what could be done a little bit better. You make yourself indispensable. That's probably the very first step, is what can you do to make yourself the best employee possible? And that's going to get you noticed. That's going to get upward mobility. It's going to open doors for you. And career-wise, it's going to give you that self-fulfillment. You're going to have a passion for what you're doing. You're going to enjoy making things better where you are. And with each step, each level of growth throughout that job, throughout that career, you get a little bit more fulfillment. You get another check in the box. So you can turn any one of those, anything, your marketing, my lifeguarding, I could have taken that and maybe I wanted to give swim lessons. Maybe that turns into a career in coaching. It could all move all the way up based upon what you think you want to do with where you're at. So it's all really in self-motivation. Turning your job into a career is kind of kicking yourself in the butt and telling yourself, I need to do this because I'm here now and I want to be here next. And here's how I get there. And that also involves working maybe with mentors, seeing somebody who is where you want to be and having them mentor you, counsel you, talk you through, hey, here's where I started. And here are some tips. And here, let me just kind of hold your hand along the way and help you out and let you be the next generation. So I think that that's very important too, is not thinking that this career thing is totally in a vacuum and that you're all alone there. Reach out to others that you see in your field or that you see doing things that you want to be doing and, gain their experience via, have coffee with somebody, talk with them in a meeting, take all of the things that they have learned and help apply that to make you a better employee and make you more fulfilled in your career path. And maybe they'll even have tips and tricks of things that failed miserably. And those are now things that you don't have to learn the hard way because you're taking all of that information in and moving forward with it. So I definitely think that you can take any job, turn it into a career, and move forward and do really something great with it.
Absolutely, Laura. I think that's great advice. I think you gave some really good tips on how to kind of graduate to the career level. And I would say one of the things that I think is super important is to make sure that you're really focused on knocking it out of the park with your current job situation too. And, once you feel like you're really at that point, then go out there. There's so many places to look at job descriptions and say, okay, what is the job description for the position that I'd like next? Would I qualify for that? What would I need to do to qualify for that? And be realistic and, mentors, let your supervisor know, hey, I need this kind of experience in order to move up. Is there any way I can get that? Or if you need a certification or training, anything like that, you make that your priority to try to really push yourself forward.
Yes. I had a thought and I just lost it. So I'll continue.
That's because what Laura and I said was so riveting.
It was. We'll just skip the thought because I don't remember where I was going with that. I do want to quickly, we're going to wrap it up here in just a minute. I do want to show a graphic that I included in, let's see if I can figure out how to do this. Yeah. Okay. So this graphic explains the difference between a job and a career, and we'll do something like that. Basically, you have on this left side a job, on the right side a career, and it actually works out well because it reflects everything that we've been talking about. So a job is short-term, career long-term. Job might have low career growth unless you make it have higher career growth, and a career would have professional career growth kind of built in. A job is mainly meant for collecting money. A career is meant for collecting experience. And along with that comes more money, of course. And then a job, you do the bare minimum a lot of the time. And then a career, it's kind of expected that you go above and beyond. I'll link this graphic in the description. I don't want to go through the entire thing. It is quite long if I can figure out how to zoom out. So I'll link that in the description of this video so anybody listening or watching can take a look at it. But that is from, I believe the website's officevibe.com. And it's just a really nice recap of what we talked about. And it actually worked out well because that graphic kind of directly reflects what we talked about. So
yeah, I think, Ian, one of the other things that I think is important though is to maintain patience through the process, because it might take you some time in order to progress to the next level. So be patient with yourself and, focus on that current job that you have making sure that you're really doing that and enjoying that. Don't give up on that current job just because that's not where you want to be permanently. And be patient and realize that it might take time to get to the next level.
Yeah. So you saying patient somehow triggered what I was going to say.
Oh, perfect.
What I was going to say has to do with passion. So we've been saying passion a lot in this episode, and finding your passion. We actually will have an episode completely dedicated on that. But I do want to say, like, if making pizza is your passion, figure out a way to make that your career. Like, you can become a chef, you can become the best pizza maker in the world. Like, set a goal for yourself, figure out a way to make that your career. Now we can use the internet, so maybe you start a pizza podcast or you start a pizza YouTube channel. I mean, there's plenty of ways that you can take your passion and turn it into your full-time job, your full-time career, and make it something that is really valuable to you and that you enjoy doing.
Or maybe you bring pizza to your coworkers.
That sounds like a great idea too.
It does. What do you think, Laura?
I agree wholeheartedly. I'm easily bribed with pizza.
Yeah.
Pizza's a great equalizer.
I'll bring the yogurt.
There you go. And I'll meet both of you poolside.
Perfect.
A little cold.
Like a great idea.
Pools right now. Maybe we can come together in the summer. Yeah. So we'll talk about passion more in the future. I believe 2 or 3 episodes from now, we will be talking about passion a lot more in depth. But I do want to wrap up this episode. We've gone for, let's say, around 30 minutes. On the next episode, we are talking about the best places to learn online. So the web is full of e-learning resources. Sometimes it can be hard to narrow down the best. In the next episode, we'll discuss e-learning sites that we found success on and take a look at some of the best courses online to level up your career. I don't know what I want to say next. I want to say thank you to Laura and Sarah, first of all. So thank you both for joining me today. And then again, I want to reiterate, if you are watching on YouTube, please subscribe. It sends a notification to your inbox so that you get notified when new episodes are posted. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or any other audio platform, please follow. So again, you get a notification when we upload new episodes every Tuesday morning. Once again, thank you, Laura and Sarah. This was a really great conversation. I need to have both of you on together more often because you guys are a dynamic duo when it comes to talking on these topics.
I do love working with Laura.
Thank you guys again, and I will see everybody next time. The Work Awesome podcast is brought to you by Avian. Avian is a 49% employee-owned company founded by retired U.S. Navy test pilots who believe passion and talent are the right traits to get the job done. Avian operates in a culture that thrives on innovation, creativity, and the entrepreneurial spirit. Instead of offering services through mere business transactions, Avian is redefining the government services industry by creating meaningful experiences and connecting talented people with important work. The passion that Avian's employees have for its work builds better partnerships for the future, and Avian's unique talents create real solutions. At Avian, we move fast, take risks, and don't settle for the status quo. To learn more, visit Avian's website at avian.com. That's avian.com.